One day, I fell ill and collapsed. Seeing that, my son Ethan told my wife, Madison, "Mom, we need to take him to the hospital." Hearing it, Madison uttered an unbelievable response. "I have a trip planned, so no can do." She has been spending less time at home recently. It started about 6 months ago when I took over my father's job. Despite the suddenness, I thought she might be enduring it, so I worked desperately hard at both my job and parenting. But eventually, I reached my limit and ended up being hospitalized. After being unreachable for several days on her trip, Madison called and asked to Ethan, "Where's Dad?" Then, he said something shocking. "My name is John Anderson. I turned 42 this year. I got married 8 years ago, and a year later, we had our child, living together as a family of three. I work as a doctor. Initially, I was employed at a university hospital, but inspired by my father's dedication as a community-based private practitioner, I decided to follow in his footsteps. Half a year ago, when my father fell ill and had to be hospitalized, thinking of closing his practice, I resigned from the university hospital to take over, which made him happy. Following that, we moved to my childhood home next to the clinic. The building was old, so I mentioned to my father about wanting to renovate eventually, and he told me to do as I wished. Even after taking over, the community has continued to rely on me, which brings me daily satisfaction. I named our son Ethan, hoping he would grow up to be strong. He's in the first grade now, but already expresses a desire to become a doctor and is learning German. He has exceeded my expectations and has grown into a responsible son. Sometimes, he's so mature it worries me, but seeing him play in the mud at the park reminds me he's still just a kid. My wife Madison is beautiful but capricious. Lately, she's been less inclined to help with household chores or parenting, which has been a concern. In the beginning, we shared household duties, and she participated in parenting, but that has almost ceased in the past 6 months. Occasionally, she'll take Ethan to the grocery store, but it's always me who takes him to parks or playgrounds as if it's a given. I don't mind, but we've been lacking family outings recently, so today, I suggested we all go out together. Hey, we haven't been out just the three of us for a while. How about we go out next Sunday? Madison, you haven't been out much with Ethan, have you? It can't be helped, I'm busy. Ethan wants to go to a movie. How about we go together this Sunday? After that, we can eat out. A movie, huh? Madison glanced at her phone and then said to me, "Well, all right. I don't have any plans anyway." That's great. Ethan will be so happy. Thank you. I'm going to take a bath and go to bed. All right. Good night. She took her phone and left the living room. Oh man. I really want to talk more with her. I want to go out and do things together. We used to talk about the future and go out together, but today was good. Usually, she would decline, so I'm honestly surprised. Hearing her agree made me happy, and I immediately told Ethan in his room. On that Sunday, "Ethan, are you ready?" "All set. I'm ready whenever." "All right. Just waiting on Madison." "Ethan, where's Mom?" "I don't know." I knocked on Madison's door but got no response. I tried again and slowly opened the door. "Madison, are you there?" Opening the door, she was nowhere to be found. Maybe she's in the bathroom. At that moment, my phone rang, and it was Madison on the screen. "Madison, what's up with the call?" "Sorry, but I can't make it today after all. Some work came up suddenly." "What? You didn't mention it yesterday, did you?" "I said it came up all of a sudden. Just go to the movie, the two of you. It's not a problem without me, right?" She said in a rushed tone and hung up. Oh, come on. I thought we could finally go out as a trio. "Dad, what's wrong?" "Where's Mom?" "Mom got caught up with work, so it's just the two of us, okay?" "Okay, got it." Ethan showed a slightly sad face but then smiled at me. Feeling sorry that he was looking forward to it, I decided we'd enjoy our day, just the two of us. All right, Ethan, let's go. After the movie, how about we grab your favorite burger on the way back? Yes. We grabbed our stuff and headed to the movie theater by car. A few hours later. Did you have fun, Ethan? Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for taking me, Dad. Sure. Let's do it again. When Ethan and I got back in the evening, Madison was already home. I'm home. Sorry we're late. We went to the park and other places in the afternoon. It's fine. She replied indifferently as usual. Ethan approached her quietly. Here. This is a present for you, he said, taking something out of his backpack. What's this? Today, there was a keychain making workshop, and I made one for everyone. This one's for you. Saying that, he handed her a white star-shaped keychain. Before going to the park, we stopped by a craft workshop nearby, and Ethan wanted to do it, so he made keychains for all three of us. He chose green for himself, and I got blue. Madison accepted the present from him. It turned out well, didn't it? He said with a happy face. Well, I don't think I'll wear it, but I'll take it anyway. I'm tired. I'll be in my room. Saying that, she left the living room. Madison. I couldn't stand her tone and followed her. Hey, wait. Ethan went to all that trouble to make it. That's no way to talk. I said in a voice Ethan couldn't hear. I didn't say I didn't want it, did I? Madison. Can't you spend a bit more time at home? There are things I want to discuss. I've said it before, haven't I? I don't want to stay in this old, moldy place. Why did you quit the university hospital? That's because I tried to explain, but she locked herself in her room. She seems to dislike that I decided to move here. I begged her to stay. I understood it was hard on her, but I wanted to talk it out, and this is what it's come to. Even if she doesn't like it, she shouldn't say that about something our kid worked hard to make. I returned to the living room with a heavy heart, where Ethan was. Maybe I should have chosen something different for Mom. He looked a bit down. Ethan, Mom's just tired from work. Hey, maybe I'll attach it to my work bag. What about you? I think I'll put it on my backpack. He smiled brightly. Madison's attitude must hurt him. It wasn't like this before. Ever since we moved here, she's become more indifferent. It can't go on. For Ethan's sake, I need to talk this through properly next time. A few days later, when I got home from work late at night, Ethan was waiting and watching TV. Sorry I'm late, Ethan. Got caught up talking to a patient. I'll make dinner in a sec. Edith. It's okay. And I folded the laundry. Wow. Thanks, Ethan. He would take the initiative to do the laundry or vacuum. He only cooks when I'm around, and since it's still a bit dangerous for him to cook alone, he is really growing up to be responsible. Dad? Oh, yeah. I'll start getting dinner ready now. I'll help too. After putting down our stuff, we started preparing dinner together. Ethan, what do you want to do tomorrow? Dad's off in the afternoon, so we can do whatever you like. Yay! I'll think about it. Got it. Tomorrow is Ethan's birthday. Madison surely knows about it. I even reminded her yesterday to make sure she'd buy a present, so it should be fine. Of course, I've prepared something too, but I'm worried if he'll like it. The next morning, Madison must have come back late last night. I can hear some noises from her room now. I knocked twice. Then, hearing a low response, I opened the door to find her still in her pajamas, phone in hand. Need something? I'll be at work until noon, so please take care of Ethan. Did you get him a present? And don't forget we're going out this afternoon. I know. Don't keep repeating it. Close the door when you're done. She replied irritably, her attention returning to her phone, so I quietly closed the door as told. Really hope everything's okay. With a mix of anxiety and hope, I leaned more towards hope. Heading to the living room, Ethan was already there. Happy 7th birthday, Ethan. Here. A present for you. Thank you. Can I open it? Of course. Ethan excitedly opened the bag. Wow. Awesome. I gave him my old stethoscope, which way I used to use. My father gave it to me when I was a child, just like him now. I remember being just as thrilled when I showed it to him before. He really liked it, so now I decided to pass it on to him. But I felt bad giving just that, so I included a basketball too. Is it okay to get two? Take good care of them, okay? Sure. Seeing him like this, he still feels so much like a kid. Let's do whatever you want today. I'll wrap up work quickly and come back, so wait here with Mom. Have a good work. Absolutely. I'll do my best. After getting him to eat breakfast, I let Madison know before heading to the clinic next door for work. After lunch break, when I finished work and came home, Ethan was sitting alone in the living room. Where's Mom? She left a while ago. What? She said to wait here because Dad would be back soon. I immediately called Madison's phone. Hello. She sounded as grumpy as usual. Madison, why aren't you here? I had something to do. I'll be back by tonight. Tonight? Today is Ethan's birthday, you know that? We said we'd go out together this afternoon. As I was scolding her over the phone, Ethan was shaking his head, signaling it was okay. All right. Make sure you're back tonight. Got it? Okay, yeah, I know. She hung up. Despite being irritated, today is Ethan's birthday. I decided to focus only on him. Ethan, what do you want to do today? I want to play basketball and want to eat your steak. Is that what you want? When I asked, he nodded enthusiastically. Then, we spent the day doing things he loves, like playing basketball and visiting a bookstore. On our way back, we bought cake. Just as the steaks were about to be ready, I checked my phone to contact Madison and saw a text message from her. It was, I'd be back today. Seeing it, I suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion. Noticing my mood, Ethan asked, Dad, are you okay? Yeah. The steaks are ready. Let's eat them together. We've got cake too. Let's eat. I celebrated his birthday by eating steak, talking about school, basketball, and his German classes. In the next late morning, I woke up almost before noon, probably due to exhaustion. Oh no! I quickly changed and left my room, only to bump into Madison. Madison, what happened yesterday? Ethan was waiting for you the whole time. I came back within the day. You both were just sleeping, weren't you? Anyway, I'm in a hurry. She hurried off to the bathroom. Oh dear. I could only let out a sigh of resignation, as well as I felt somewhat sluggish. As I slowly made my way to the living room, I found Ethan. Ethan, sorry I'm late. You must be hungry, right? You could have woken me up. It's okay. I ate some bread. Ça va. I felt guilty. This had never happened before. As I was about to make some coffee, pouring water into the pot to boil it, that's when it happened. My vision blurred, and I felt so dizzy I couldn't stand. Then, I dropped the mug I was holding, and it crashed loudly to the floor. Dad, are you okay? Hearing Ethan's voice, I collapsed. Dad, are you okay? Hey, Dad. Ethan, sorry. Get Mom. Got it. Just as he was about to go get Madison, she walked into the living room, and he quickly ran up to her. Mom, we need to take him to the hospital. What? What's all this sudden? Dad collapsed. Please help. I hoped she would respond to his desperate plea. As my consciousness faded, I thought. However, her response was unexpected. I have a trip, so no can do. What? What about Dad? He'll get better soon. Besides, I'm going on a trip with my parents for about 4 days, so take care. She said to me lying on the floor, in a somewhat cheerful voice. Mom, Ethan, I'll bring you a gift, so wait here nicely with Dad. With that, she left. I couldn't believe that was happening, leaving her incapacitated husband and 7-year-old son behind. More than that, I had to let someone know for Ethan's sake for now. I managed to grab my smartphone from my pants and then lost consciousness. A few hours later, I woke up in a hospital bed. Dad. Ethan. Beside me stood Ethan, a doctor, and a few neighbors. Confused about what had happened, I looked around and the doctor explained. You collapsed from anemia, and it seems like you were quite exhausted too. Is that so? Thanks for everything. As I lay there, thanking them, the doctor shook his head with a kind expression and explained what had happened. Your thanks should go to your son. He used your smartphone to call an ambulance and alert the neighbors. What? You did all that by yourself? Yeah. Remember, you taught me the emergency number? Right. Thank you, Ethan. I stroked his head, and he looked at me with determined eyes. I always knew he was dependable, but I hadn't realized just how much he had grown. I felt sorry for the others, but learning about my son's growth made me happy. A few days later, my phone kept ringing, so I reluctantly answered, only to find Ethan on the other end. What's up? Ethan, it's you? Where are you? Where? Where's Dad? Unfazed by Madison's panic, he dropped a bombshell. Dad has gone far away. What? What does that mean? Far away? I'm near the house, at a restaurant. Bye. Restaurant. Wait. He hung up without listening to her. A few minutes later, Madison rushed into the restaurant and sat down in front of Ethan. Ethan. And you're here too. Ethan said you'd gone far away in a gloomy voice. What? You thought something happened to me after I collapsed. Well, I mean, I was just worried. She looked a bit sheepish. Because Dad went to the far restroom. Ethan explained with an upward glance. Come on, you're confusing. But more importantly, our house. Why is there no house? Her panic wasn't just about me being gone, but also about our house disappearing. Actually, I had been considering remodeling the house. But after consulting with my hospitalized father, we decided to demolish it and build anew. I had wanted to discuss it with her, but she never listened, so I kept it to myself. What? So, it's going to be a new house? Awesome. You could have just said that. It's such a surprise. Madison, you weren't around, were you? And when we moved here, I did mention that we'd build new eventually, didn't I? Did you? So, when will it be ready? She looked at me with a happy face. She's always been easy to read because her emotions show on her face. I called a neighbor who was at the hospital with me, and they came to the restaurant right away to take Ethan for a while. Well then, shall we have an adult conversation? Oh, it's a house for the three of us, but I think it will be ready within 6 months. Really? But where's my stuff? Where did you keep it? And why Ethan? Oh, I can't discuss this in front of Ethan. What's that supposed to mean? She looked puzzled. Your belongings. I stored them at a young man's place. What are you talking about? There's no such person. I've checked everything, so lies won't work. What? Her behavior changed suddenly after we moved, and her sudden work commitments were unlike her, so I had felt something was off. Though I thought she might be busy with work, asking a relative who worked at the same place revealed that wasn't the case. Besides, I doubted she would go on a trip with her parents. She always said they were strict and hardly spoke to them. Therefore, after collapsing, I contacted my in-laws once. As expected, they were home and didn't know her whereabouts, so I hired a detective agency to investigate. Just as I suspected, she had another man. It was a young guy. Here's the evidence. What? When did you? I presented the documents and photos gathered by the investigation in front of her. There was no escaping the truth now. Realizing she couldn't deny it, she started to apologize. I'm sorry. I was out of my mind. I won't do it again. Forgive me, okay? We're a married couple, right? What are you saying? You were with him even when I was collapsing and during Ethan's birthday, weren't you? Let's get a divorce. Divorce? Wait. But you just said a house for three? That includes me, right? Indeed, I was building a house for the three of us. But Madison wasn't part of that three. When I said three, I meant Ethan, my father, and me. What? You know, I was stressed because the environment changed. That's it. You'll forgive me, right? She tried to cuddle up to me with a pleading voice, not caring about the people around us. Sure, I changed our environment, but that doesn't justify betraying the family. Finally, I handed her the divorce papers. Sign here now. I'll also demand compensation from you and the other man. I'll take custody, so I'll need child support too. If you don't agree, I'm ready to take this to court. Are you serious? Realizing I was serious, she signed the papers, trembling and in tears. We officially divorced soon after, and I got the compensation and child support settled properly. She got embarrassed by that incident becoming known at her workplace and resigned at the end. She had nowhere to go and tried to stay with her boyfriend, but he kicked her out, angry about the compensation demands. Unable to find a full-time job, she's now living quietly in an old house, juggling day and night shifts. I heard those stories when I met her. She insisted on giving Ethan his birthday present, so I arranged for them to meet at the restaurant. It had only been a month, but she looked unkempt and thinner, almost unrecognizable. Ethan, I'm sorry for being late. Happy birthday. Handing the present to Ethan, he silently accepted and opened it. Inside was a black bag. How do you like it? You're in elementary school now, so I thought something a bit mature. When Madison asked in a small voice, he responded loudly. I don't think I'll use it, but I'll take it. What? Ethan? Let's go home, Dad. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Stunned by his unexpected response, Madison remained frozen. Two of us left the restaurant. A marriage starts with two strangers. When they marry and have children, living together, not everything goes as planned. That's why couples and families need to support each other to last. 6 months later, our house was completed. My father was discharged from the hospital and seemed in good health. Amazing. It's beautiful. Yeah. I'm glad we decided to build a new one. From now on, it will be just the three of us men. There might be challenges, but we'll support each other and live together. All right. I've got to keep working hard. Go, Dad. Ethan cheered, wearing the stethoscope I gave him. I vow to continue my work with pride and compassion. Being a doctor and father Ethan can always rely on, showing him the nobility. Hey folks, welcome back to my channel Relationship Haven. Today's story is about instant karma. Opie found out his wife had been cheating on him, and when he confronted her about it, she had zero remorse whatsoever and even laughed about it. Now she's going to have to be laughing in her hospital bed after months later. She got diagnosed with a brain tumor and only has 18 months left to live. In today's second story, Opie's wife cheated on him with her boss and is now begging for mercy after her entire life has been wrecked. Now, let's get into today's stories. Hey guys, I've been on here the last few days reading these horror stories. It's good to know I'm not alone. My situation is a bit unusual. About 4.5 months ago, I found out my wife was having an affair. It wasn't hard to uncover, seeing as she was terrible at hiding it. When I confronted her, we talked for 4 hours and I made her tell me every detail. It took some coaxing, but after about 20 minutes, she started talking. She said some crazy stuff to me that night, and the worst part about it was the way she said them. All nonchalant, like she was chatting with a girlfriend at a coffee shop. One example is when we talked about the sex. I asked her if it was the same as what we do or if it was different. In my mind, I was thinking of different positions. What she said was like a dagger in my chest. She said it was different because it was passionate. I told her, "You're saying in the 10 years we've been together, we haven't had passionate sex," and her response was, maybe on our honeymoon. The worst part was how she said it, casual as can be. So I thought this girl is a narcissist, but I'm doubtful because narcissists are smart and cunning. This is how I found out. The first night she had a condom sticking out of her wallet in the living room. The next night, I checked her laptop and she didn't realize it was connected to her phone. Maybe you guys can explain this one to me because to this day, I still don't get what she did. I went through her photos and she had screenshotted her entire conversation with this guy and deleted it one by one. It was all in her deleted files. Maybe you can tell me what a screen recording is. It's only for iPhones. Some of the screenshots she took had timestamps at the bottom. I made her text him that night and tell him to not contact her again. The next morning, she told me he had texted her, which I appreciated. If he was smart, he would have left it alone. But his response was, "Are you okay?" Right then from that response, I knew that weasel would keep trying. I told her as much. I forgot to mention that when I confronted her, I told her that we were done because that's the one thing I couldn't forgive. And I told her for our daughter's sake that she could stay there until she found a place. A sleepless week went by, and the only thing I noticed was that she disconnected her phone from her laptop. No biggie. She went out for a birthday party that weekend, and she did go where she said she did because I checked the bank account. However, she came home drunk. She maybe has a drink twice a year, went into the bathroom for half an hour, then went to bed without even saying a word. First red flag of the night. A half hour later, I went into the garage and her car wasn't there. I thought, sure, she had too much to drink. But at that point, my gut was screaming at me. So I found her Snapchat password and logged in on my phone. And sure enough, the first person at the top of her recents was the guy she had an affair with. By the way, she told me he had no social media. All I saw was that the last thing he said was show me. So, while I was in her account, I changed it from delete instantly to say for 24 hours. That's going to be important later. At that point, it was 4 a.m. So I waited until I couldn't take it anymore and woke her up at 7 o'clock asking where her car was. I told her to call one of her girlfriends to pick her up and get her a car. And I walked downstairs. I was still logged into her account on my phone. And in the 5 seconds it took me to walk downstairs and open my phone, she snapped him good morning with a nude picture. The worst part about that was the picture was from our wedding night. Anyway, she left to get her car and I was sitting there thinking, how could she tear my heart out twice in 1 week? She came back and I told her that we needed to talk. Her response was, "Oh, this again?" I asked her if she had texted him last night and she denied it on a technicality. So I asked if she had snapped him, which she also denied. So in my anger, I rolled my shirt up and did the pose she did and said, "Does good morning ring a bell?" Her eyes lit up in immediate anger, and she started yelling and hitting me. Relax, guys. My 2-year-old hits harder. I told her I was leaving for a few days and for her to pack her stuff up. As I was walking out the door, she asked when I would be back. And I was confused because I couldn't have been any clearer. She asked if I was coming back that day. And I kid you not, because I'm supposed to go to a party later today. I looked her in the eye and said, "There is truly something wrong with your head." And I left. I'm getting to it, guys. I promise. A few days went by, and my daughter kept calling out for mommy, and it broke my heart. So I caved and let her back in. She deleted her entire Snapchat when she came back and promised to wait until we were divorced. A few more days went by on that following weekend, and she was supposed to go to some food festival with her girlfriend that Sunday. Saturday night, my gut started screaming again. So while she was giving our daughter a bath, the only time her phone is not in her hand, I went to open it and saw that she had changed the passcode. The first thing that popped up in my head was our daughter's birthday. It opened on the first try. And sure enough, she was once again talking to that guy on Snapchat, and they were talking about meeting up at the food festival. I started getting a gut feeling when I got a notification earlier that day that she was back on Snapchat. I went on a walk until our daughter went to sleep. I came back home with her completely unaware that I had seen her phone. I came up with a plan to mess with her on my walk, knowing exactly how it was going to play out. When I got back, I asked politely to see her phone because I had a feeling. She willingly showed me her phone 2 days before that. She said fine, went downstairs, and then all I heard was a loud no. And she locked herself in the bathroom. I calmly walked down there and knocked, asking if everything was okay. She responded, "I can't believe you don't trust me." Yada yada. She opened the door after a few minutes and gave me her phone. Long story short, I gave her 10 minutes to get out. Here's the kicker. 2 months later, I got a call from my dad saying that she was in the hospital with a giant brain tumor. I went to visit because, as much as I hate her, she is my child's mother, and it was the right thing to do. The whole drive there, I was thinking, well, that explains her insane behavior for the last couple of months. I told her that, and she was in complete denial. They took it out the next day. 2 weeks later, the test results came back. They were really bad. She had maybe 18 months. To this day, she is in complete denial about it. I was going to be supportive, but when I put her phone away at the hospital, I found an empty bottle of lube in her purse. It was important because one of the last things I said to her when I finally kicked her out was, "If you ever loved me at all in the 10 years we've been together, just start telling me the truth and wait until we're divorced." So after that, I cut all contact with her. How can I talk to someone who is so detached from reality? Everyone has been telling me to forgive her because it was the tumor, but that's bull. She knew what she was doing. There's a lot more details to this story, but I've rambled on long enough. Let me know if you want more details, and I'll post the rest on another day. Thanks for the help, guys. Opie, you need to continue to remain with no contact. Now that she's in the hospital, let her affair partner take care of her. She's no longer your problem anymore. Your only concern should be your daughter. I understand what happened to her may be unfortunate and is something you think that may have caused her to cheat on you, but at the end of the day, it is still not justifiable because of the pain she has caused you. This could possibly be a guilt trip attempt by her to try and win you back. Don't fall for it, Opie. Stay strong, and I hope you are able to continue to heal from your situation. Now, let's get into today's second story. Hi, all. I really appreciate this community and found it very helpful throughout this process, so I'd like to share a truncated version of my story. My ex-wife and I had been together for about 6 years before we got married in June of 2021. Getting married during a pandemic wasn't easy, but we had a wonderful wedding, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. Fast forward a few months later, and my wife became a completely different person. She opted to go to the office regularly while I continued to work from home. We both worked from home throughout the pandemic. She worked for a big firm, so the long hours seemed to be par for the course, but she no longer wanted to spend quality time with me on the weekends. She spent a lot of time with her horse and began to downplay my achievements, claiming I was no longer a go-getter, even though I was doing very well at work. People say that the first year of marriage can be hard, so I started taking my wife on regular date nights to reinvigorate our relationship, but she remained withdrawn and judgmental, which was a big blow to my self-esteem. I racked my brain thinking of what I might have done to make her act and feel this way, but I couldn't come up with anything plausible, so I started to lose sleep thinking I was possibly losing my wife to someone else. These were the worst months of my life because I couldn't believe you could lose the person you married so shortly after tying the knot, so I convinced myself it was the pressure of her job that was causing her to act this way, and I opted to suppress the negative thoughts to avoid exacerbating the issues we were having. She was actually gaslighting me the whole time, and I just didn't know it. Discovery Day. I organized a romantic weekend by the beach, despite my suspicions, in order to try and revive what we had prior to our marriage. I thought this would renew our bond, but she became more brazen with her disdain. I told her I loved her on our way to dinner, and she didn't reciprocate. Later that evening, she had me take a not suitable for work photo of her in a bubble bath, and when I mentioned that it was a bit too scandalous for social media, she responded, "That's not what I'm using it for." We have been intimate throughout our marriage, but she refused to be intimate with me on this trip. That's when I finally confronted her on my suspicions and demanded she be honest with me. She denied everything for a while, but I convinced her I had proof. I didn't, and she finally confessed. She admitted to sleeping with her boss on numerous occasions for months, and that he was pressuring her to leave me. I went through a panic attack, which I had never experienced before, and after finally calming down, I realized what a fool she was for falling for his lies. I told her I was going to inform his wife, and she responded, "She'll find out, but you won't be the one to tell her." That's when I knew my ex-wife had convinced herself she was going to run away with her boss. It was sick and a little evil, and I realized that my ex-wife was never who I married. The real her was this manipulative and vile stranger. She changed my flight that night, sent me to my parents' house, and told me she would mail me some boxes of my clothes. I contacted the boss's wife via social media as soon as I got to the airport, and that's when all hell broke loose. Long story short, the boss never planned on leaving his family, and in order to try and save his marriage, he distanced himself from my ex-wife as quickly as possible. Apparently, HR had to get involved, and my ex-wife quickly gained a reputation around her office. She cried and pleaded with me to take her back, but I told her she had made the decision, and I was just completing her plan. Aftermath. Success is the best revenge. Life has been good now that the dust has settled. I live near some of my closest friends, met a wonderful woman, and found a great job in California. I'm learning to love myself again and have realized that my ex-wife's opinion of me during our marriage is not a reflection of who I am or my inherent value. I'm truly happier without her, and while I occasionally feel disheartened by what transpired, I feel blessed that this truth came to light before we had kids. OP, I am deeply sorry for the pain your wife has caused you. The karma that happened afterwards is absolutely beautiful. When these cheaters are in the affair fog, their mind becomes delusional, and they start thinking the high they're experiencing will last forever. In this case, your wife idiotically thought her boss would leave his wife for her and then run off together and spend the rest of their lives together like some fairy tale. I'm glad to hear your wife was snapped back into reality. Now she will live with the consequences for the rest of her life. Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. My wife, 35, became selfish and distant because she was secretly seeing our neighbor. I let her distance herself from me and made a decision to focus on me and what I needed and enjoyed. The marriage had become a burden on my shoulders, and I enjoyed my time alone. Our stupid relationship clouded my days and made me feel like I had to solve a giant metaphorical jigsaw puzzle before I could eat or sleep. At the time, I still didn't know why my wife pulled away and limited our conversations to who was taking the trash out that night. I was outside, gardening, trying to keep myself positive when she came outside the house, smiled at someone I couldn't see, then looked around first before walking towards them. I peeked around the corner to watch her and see if I could tell who it was. It was our much older neighbor. He must have been at least 10 years older than my wife. My stomach completely flopped when he planted a huge kiss on her and tapped her, but when she walked away. The fact that she was cheating on me with someone so close explained why she wasn't on her phone all the time. She would just go outside all the time for walks. A while ago, she stopped cooking for me. It was really annoying because I was a terrible chef and I tried asking her to make me stuff, but she always had an excuse and said it would be better if we ate separately due to work schedule conflicts. It wasn't that much of a difference. She just wanted me to starve. So I took the time to cook lasagna in the kitchen, leaving no space for her to make dinner for a 3-hour window. She was growing impatient, So I took this time to tell her it wasn't even for me to eat, it was for someone else. Of course, this made her wonder if I was making it for her, so she asked who it was for, and I said the older neighbor next door who was moving away. She looked confused and immediately asked if I meant Tim AP. I said yeah, and I thought he already told her when she was outside with him. She turned red and looked at me, but then walked away. I don't think she cared very much if I saw. So it was good I had been distancing myself too, and chose not to worry about her or our relationship. I finally had enough happen to motivate me to move out. I was being disrespected and she did not care. There's no repairing a relationship when one person's unwilling and sleeping with a neighbor. I know she was sleeping with him because I hid in our house one day when she had him come over to bang. I recorded the audio pretty clearly and used it to file for divorce. She told me she never thought I'd actually move out or file for divorce, and she felt bad we ended how we did. That interaction with her was mild compared to 3 weeks later when AP unexpectedly passed away. Then she was hysterical, asking me to take her back because he was gone. I told her I'd have to be one gullible son of a gun if I took her up on that offer. She was no longer the woman or wife I desired, and I was going to find one. She tried to spread rumors about me in her anger, but few of her friends knew the truth and argued with her. It started this string of comments and insults against my wife's character. After she made a few enemies, she deleted the post that was intended to garnish sympathy for her. Sadly, 3 weeks after AP passed away, my wife found out she was pregnant. I knew it was not my child, so she was pregnant with a deceased man. She had her mom move in with her to help afford the house and raise the baby. It was not an arrangement she was happy with. She has no privacy and certainly a rough dating life ahead of her. She felt like it was partially my fault she was in this situation, and I thought she was crazy. I wasn't the one that cheated, and it certainly wasn't up to me to reconnect and communicate with her. I haven't felt the need to start dating again. I've just been settling into my new place and making it my next home. The time I spent distancing before the divorce really helped to prepare me for this step. Wow, Opie. I am sorry your wife pushed you away for someone else and didn't even have the decency to tell you or have a conversation about breaking up or what was actually wrong between the two of you. Sometimes the hardest conversations have to be had if there's any chance for reconciliation or a good resolution. If someone is to be ready to commit to a relationship, they must be willing to say what's on their mind, no matter what their spouse will think. Obviously, be considerate of each other's feelings and don't say anything to hurt the other person. Just tell them how you feel and what you believe needs to be resolved. If someone isn't mature enough to listen and consider the other's perspective without judgment or hostility, they may not be mature enough to have a committed romantic relationship. Thank you for sharing your story of hardship and personal growth. Now, let's get into today's second story. My wife, 47, and I, 43, had a wonderful relationship. We trusted each other, talked, cooked together, shared our incomes, and these things never changed. She knew she was extremely talented and smart, but she was humble about it. She didn't like women that loved staring in the mirror camera on social media or hearing their own voices. I never noticed anything weird about her or anything I would have changed. I appreciated her and counted on our long conversations every day. We were married for 20 years and had one teenager depending on us. I knew our relationship was the perfect example for him to watch, and it made me proud. That changed the moment someone told me my wife was cheating on me. It was 25 minutes after she left for a place she volunteers at. The neighbor across from our apartment knocked on my door and said he was standing on the porch for a smoke when he saw my wife kiss the man that gave her a ride somewhere. I started pouring sweat and asked him if he was sure it was my wife. He said yes, of course. He said it wasn't the first time he saw her get in this guy's car, but it was the first time he saw a romantic gesture. I knew it was the Christian married man my wife carpooled with for volunteering. I couldn't believe he'd stoop so low and go behind his wife's back knowing the woman he was wooing was married as well. This guy needed to face the consequences. I set up a small security camera so the next time she went with him in his car, I'd see what they did. It worked like a charm. I caught another bold kiss right in front of our apartment complex. What was my wife thinking? You don't just start kissing other people when you've been married for 20 years and have a teenage son to be an example for. When my wife got home, I showed her the video. I'm pretty sure she had to change her pants. She was mortified. She tried to say it didn't mean anything. It was just supposed to be like a friendly greeting kiss, but I wasn't buying that. I told her she had to stop volunteering so I could keep an eye on her. She agreed wholeheartedly, and I agreed not to tell her son anything yet. I certainly dreaded the thought of having to tell him his mom and I were getting a divorce. So we went everywhere together for 3 months. Then she started asking me if she could go to various places real quick, like the library, food store, gas station, a lunch run, or whatever else she thought was innocent sounding but disinteresting enough for me not to go. I knew she was trying to get me used to her going places without me again. I waited a while before I followed her to the gas station. She didn't need cigarettes or anything, and the car had a full tank of gas. Just as I thought she met up with AP, she got in his car and they sped off. I was barely able to keep up. I thought for sure they'd notice my car, but neither of them did. I took pictures of her going inside his house, then drove home. I walked around outside while I called the church and asked the receptionist for AP's landline number. When I called at first, no one answered. I waited 1 hour before calling again. By now my son asked where his mom was. I told him I wasn't sure but probably volunteer again. So now I was lying to our son, and she was going to cause us to divorce. So much for being our son's wonderful example of a married couple. I knew he could still learn something from all of this when he was older, but I was bitter at the time. He went up to his room and AP's wife answered when I called the second time. I told her she wasn't gonna want to hear what I had to tell her and it would probably be better if her husband wasn't around. She said he wasn't and pressed me to go on. I told her the truth and mentioned the proof I had. She was completely blown away. Just like me, her husband's behavior never changed, and they had a good marriage. I apologized and sent her the proof. AP's wife agreed to help me by playing a role in a plan to really get back at them. She showed her cheating husband the evidence, but told him he could keep the house if he signed divorce papers immediately. He agreed, but the divorce papers she put together said she could keep the house. He wasn't very observant. So she pretended to move out, staying in my apartment while her divorce papers were finalized and AP moved my ex into his house. My son was very understanding when I explained that she really needed a place to stay. My divorce was also finalized and the landlord took my wife's name off the apartment since she thought she was moving in with AP happily ever after. I could not believe my wife didn't care more about leaving her teenage son to live with just his father. She didn't take the time to talk with him or anything. She heard him, I know. He told her she did, and when she finally called him full of shame. That was after AP's wife returned with papers ordering them to vacate the premises. My wife begged me to let her come back. I overheard my son on the phone with her telling her he didn't want her to come back, just to leave again, and he knew I wouldn't and shouldn't take her back. He was very mature, but I hated that he was so involved in this just because my wife needed a place to stay now. So since they had nowhere to go for a while, they stayed in a hotel, and then AP got an opportunity to stay with someone, but he couldn't take my ex with him. He left without hesitation, giving her $50 as a parting gift. What a loser. She was left in a bad place. I think she started sleeping in the church, but no one told me anything about her and she wouldn't talk to me or our son about her situation. I know she was feeling the consequences of losing the long-term family she helped create. I hope to hear this stops people from cheating. Wow, Up. I am sorry your wife took advantage of the trust you had in her by starting an affair with another person you should have been able to trust. It's hard to feel sorry for them when they've made such terribly selfish decisions. Why couldn't they have both humbled themselves and simply honored their vows, spouses, and children? It's terrible how easy it is for some people to not care and break the hearts of people dearest to them. No one should have to face this betrayal after dedicating themselves to someone for 20 years. I know you'll find hope in your recovery. Remember to live life moment to moment and let go of the things you can't control. I sincerely wish you luck and genuine love with a wise partner. Thanks for sharing your story. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a fantastic day or evening. In today's story, Opie found out about his wife's affair and got instant revenge the same day he found out about it. Now, let's get into today's story to find out what happened. Hello, for the context of this story, I'll call myself Ben and my then wife Linda. This is my story from 6+ years ago about how my marriage ended within a day. I, 32, was working as a chemical engineer and my wife of 2 years, Linda, 27, worked as a nurse assistant at the time. We didn't have children, but we were planning to start a family soon. We were financially secure. I made around $140K a year and my wife made around $30K. She was also in school, which I was paying for. We owned a house and had savings. I thought we were happy and content with our lives. I had noticed that in the weeks leading up to D-Day that Linda was spending far more time on her phone than usual. I also noticed when she unlocked her phone that she had added a passcode, something which she never had before. We never had a reason to have passcodes before on our phones since I never used hers or she never did mine. We never snooped on each other's phones ever. However, I didn't think much of it at the time since she had never given me any reason to doubt her. Fast forward to D-Day. Me and Linda had escaped to the lake house my family owned a few days prior, which was located about 1.5 hours from home. We were planning on spending some quality time together since we had both gotten a bit busy with our careers, school, etc. In hindsight, I did notice that Linda was a little preoccupied during this stay. However, I was still unaware. Her nephew had been diagnosed with leukemia a few weeks ago when the entire family was buzzing with the news, so I thought perhaps it was that. She also seemed to be texting more than usual as well, but I thought maybe it was her sister relaying news and asking for advice regarding her son. On the second day since we arrived, Linda had started working on her special Moroccan dish that she had been excited about for some time. She asked me to look the preparation method up again on the web, and I do. But my battery is about to die, so I go in and plug it into the charger. She then unlocks her phone and tosses it to me and asks me to look it up on her phone. I search for it and read it out loud. Just as I finished reading it and was about to turn the screen off and get locked out of her phone permanently, a silent WhatsApp notification pops up. I find it weird since I didn't know Linda even had WhatsApp, and I automatically click on it. I wasn't expecting to see anything incriminating or wasn't even trying to snoop. It was more like a reflex action more than anything, and I opened a chat log between her and the guy. He goes, "How's it going?" Then he's typing. Then, as I'm staring at it, he sends another one, "Already missing you." My entire vision blurs, and I feel the room spinning for about 3 seconds. I hurriedly grabbed her phone and head off to the den. My wife is still preparing for her special dish, blissfully unaware that I was close to seizing just a few feet over. I scroll through their endless chat. There's flirting, there's exchanging nudes, there's a lot of talking about the sex they had or are planning on having, etc. They've also professed their love for each other a few times. After about 10 minutes of scrolling, I've had enough. I decide on the spot that my marriage is over. After reading through all that, there's no way I'll ever want her in my life. much less my bed. I tried changing her password but fail, so I changed the screen sleep time of her phone to never, then grab my car keys and her phone and head out. On the way, I utter something about grabbing some toiletries that I had forgotten to bring along from a store half a kilometer away. She says something back. I barely register what it is. As I get behind the wheel, I feel a strange sense of serenity as the fog lifts and my mind clears. I stop shortly after out of reach of the lake house and text the guy we're coming home. Ben has a work emergency. Let's meet at their usual hangout at 12. And I drive. I drive for nearly 2 hours, but it feels like an eternity. I arrived at their usual hangout, which is a coffee shop close to her school. I wait in the car to kill the time till 12. At around 11:45 the guy arrives. I recognize him from his selfies. He looks young, younger than my wife too, and fresh. I immediately get out and head inside fast. As soon as he enters, I do too. And I wrap my arm around his shoulders. He jumps and turns his head towards me. My face is literally inches from his, and his pupils dilate as he recognizes me. Whatever he was about to say died on his lips. I grip his shoulders tight and direct him to a nearby table. He looks like he's about to have a panic attack. I calmly take her phone and press record and ask him to start from the beginning. He starts to protest, but I say he's blown my marriage up. This is the least he could do. They were introduced by one of their mutual friends. They went from acquaintances to friends really fast, and within weeks they were in bed. This had been going on for 10 months. All this time she had been, and I had been talking about starting a family. She was screwing him. He went on and on about their escapades, the lies, the deceit, but I just tuned it out for the rest of the time. I had heard enough. After he finishes, he starts apologizing. He's sorry he tore my marriage apart, but he's in love with her and he sees a future with her. She's the one. I tell him fine, he can have her. I have no use for her anymore. I don't want someone's leftovers. Then I thank him. I thank him for helping me see what a skank she is before I put a bun in her oven. I thank him for the 18 years of child support I will be paying. I then tell him her location and ask him to go get her. Then I head out. I head straight home. While on my way, Linda calls me from the landline and she's in hysterics. She asks where I was, that she was worried sick I had gotten into an accident. She tried to call me but couldn't find her phone, but then remembered there's a landline. I calmly tell her I'm on my way home and asked her to pack our shit and come home straight away. She freaks out and starts rambling, but I hang up. She tries calling several times, but I don't answer. She then calls her own phone, probably to locate it, thinking it's still in the house, but I let it ring too. I get home and get busy. I call my best bud and bawl like a freaking baby. He was a solid support, and he says he'll make some calls around and get back to me. Meanwhile, I screenshot the chats between her and her lover and send them to my phone. I also send all the pics and videos of them. Then I changed her Facebook status to single. I then create a post on her profile quoting one of her texts to the guy. So, what's the lie I'm going to tell Ben today so I can come screw you, with a heart eyes emoji. Then I head over to and add one of their selfies where they look intimate to her story. I activate the notification sounds and leave her phone on the tabletop. It doesn't take very long for the phone to buzz nonstop with messages and reactions from confused family and friends. I figure Linda must already be on the way back and her lover on the way to the lake house if he's actually going to fetch her. Either way, they're going to miss each other. Then my friend gets back from his lawyer friend who's ready to clear up a bit of his schedule to create a wiggle room for me. So I head out immediately and my friend arrives too. House is in my name and so are the savings. As per the infidelity clause, I won't have to pay her alimony. Proving the infidelity would be a walk in the park. I'll be walking away from the marriage pretty much unscathed, except for the 2 years I wasted on this woman and PTSD. When I head home, My soon-to-be ex-wife is on the front porch with all our luggage lying around. As soon as she sees me, she goes absolutely nuts, asking me what the frick is wrong with me leaving her like that, etc. I unlock the door and quietly step inside, and she follows rambling at 1,000 words per minute. She finally gets in my face and yells at me. I take her notification-clogged phone from the table, open the audio recording of her lover, and hand it over to her. To say she was shocked is an understatement. She sinks to the floor and starts screaming that it wasn't what I think it is, that her lover is mistaken. It didn't mean anything, and that I'm the love of her life and all that BS. I tell her she has 2 hours to pack her stuff and get out. She wails at first, then clings to my leg and begs me to not ruin our family for a simple mistake, and then turns nasty. She says I can't kick her out because this is her house too, and I remind her the prenup with its infidelity clause. She kicks and screams for some time, but I don't wait around. In the span of the next few hours, I inform her family, her friends, her colleagues, etc. Since the prenup is solid, I figured it's important to get my narrative out first, since I have no doubt she's going to spin some sort of sob story and make me out to be an abuser or something. So long story short, I serve her within the week, and 6 months later our divorce is finalized. Soon after I kicked her out, she moved in with her lover, and they lasted a solid 2 months before she set herself up in her sister's guest room. From what I heard at the time, she was let go of her job and was taking a break from school till she scraped some dollars to pay for it. The final time I saw her in court, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked like she had aged a decade in the span of 6 months and looked ragged and tired. 3 years post the ordeal, I met the woman of my dreams and married her. I'm now a proud father to a toddler. As for my ex, I do not know her whereabouts. However, wherever she is, I hope she's living well. I have long let go of the anger and resentment I felt toward her. She's only a minuscule part of my past now. I know, like mine and her family's did, most of you listeners probably would not approve of the way I handle things. Why couldn't I just forgive her this one time? Why couldn't I give her one last chance? Why did I rush into a divorce? But for me at the time, and even now, the course of actions I followed makes the most sense. I did not, and still do not, feel like cheating is something I can just sweep under the rug and move forward with life. It just isn't. Anyways, thank you everybody for reading my story. Opie, I have so much respect for the way you handled this. You repaid for her college and basically funding her life, while also planning for a family. But all that time she was shagging another dude. She made the bed, so she needs to lie in it. You're extremely lucky this happened. What are the odds she gets knocked up by the dude and you'd be tricked into raising an affair kid as your own? I wish you the best with your situation, Opie, and hope you're able to recover. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed the story, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on today's story.